Hello friends, very warm welcome to my business laws channel. So friends, this is the second video to this special contracts. In the first video, I have introduced both the contracts, contract of indemnity and guarantee, then essentials of both, and then I took up the rights of indemnity holder and time of commencement of liability of indemnifier. So today I will take up remaining headings and complete this chapter. So let us begin now. The heading which I am going to take up now, nature and extent of surety's liability. Very often, friends, question is asked in the examination. I write a short note on nature and extent of surety's liability. 6 to 7 points I would like to discuss with the help of example. The very first point is surety's liability is secondary. You all know, friends, there are three parties involved in the contract of indemnity, contract of guarantee. First one is the creditor, then debtor, then surety. So primary liability is that of debtor. So surety's liability is secondary. It will arise only when the default is committed by the debtor. So surety's liability is contingent or dependent. It is contingent means conditional. And dependent, it is not independent. Independent liability is that of principal debtor. So surety's liability is always conditional and dependent. It is dependent upon whether the liability is discharged by the principal debtor or not. Moving ahead, surety's liability arises immediately on the default of the principal debtor. So the moment principal debtor commits default, then only the surety's liability will arise. Say principal debtor has borrowed 10,000 rupees from creditor for a period of 1 month on the guarantee of surety, and he has made the payment on the due date after the period of 1 month. Then the surety's liability will be nil. Then surety's liability is coextensive. Surety liability is coextensive with that of the principal debtor as per section 128 of the ICA 1873. Now the question arises, friends, what is the meaning of the term coextensive? Let us presume, friends, surety has given the guarantee for 100% debt. Then whatever is the liability of the principal debtor, the surety's liability will be the same. I would like to explain this point with the help of example. Let us presume, friends, the seller has drawn a bill upon the buyer, and buyer's performance has been guaranteed by the surety. Buyer has given the surety has given the assurance to the seller that buyer will meet the bill on the date of maturity, and if he does not, then I will make the payment. Let us presume the buyer has defaulted. He has not met the bill on the date of maturity. Then, friends, you all know noting and protesting charges will be there, which will be paid by the holder of the bill. So, amount of the bill plus noting and protesting charges plus interest of the bill. All this will be the liability of principal debtor. So, the similar amount will have to be paid by the surety if the principal debtor if the buyer or the principal debtor has committed default. So I hope you must have understood, and if you still have any doubt, you can always write in the comment section. The surety is entitled to limit his liability. Friends, law doesn't provide that surety should guarantee 100% debt. It is up to him. He may decide. He can give the guarantee for 100% debt, 80%, 90%, 60%, whatever he feels like. Whatever extent of guarantee has been given by him, he will be liable to that extent only, where the default is committed by the principal debtor. Surety's liability in continuing guarantee. Friends, under the heading kinds of guarantee, I have talked about specific versus continuing guarantee. Continuing guarantee extends to a series of transactions. So surety's liability will not be limited. It will be extended up to the series of transactions. See, he has told the supplier to supply 10 Acer computers, up to 10 Acer computers, to the buyer, as and when the order is made by the buyer. So friends, this is the example of continuing guarantee. So after, two computers have been ordered by the buyer and the payment has been made. And now the surety wants to withdraw his guarantee. He may serve the notice to the supplier that I would like to withdraw my guarantee. Then it becomes a duty of the supplier not to supply more computers to the buyer. And if he still supplies, then surety will not be held liable. Now, last point is, friends, surety's liability where the original contract between the principal debtor and the creditor becomes void or voided. So sometimes the contract between the debtor and the creditor is void. Like say, debtor is minor person. Then, if minor, makes a payment on the due date, then the liability of the surety will be nil. But if he defaults, then creditor cannot file a suit against the minor debtor, but surety will be held liable. So wherever the contract between the principal debtor and the creditor is void, it does not mean, friends, surety will be discharged from its liability. So I have explained all the points under the heading nature and extent of surety's liability. Now moving ahead, friends. Now I'll take up the heading rights of surety. Another very important question which is asked in the examination: describe the rights of surety against different parties. Or, it may be describe the rights of surety against the principal debtor, creditor, and co-surety. So if it is against the different parties, then the student should know which are the different parties. So different parties are principal debtor, creditor, and the co-surety. So let us begin now, friends. First heading is rights of surety against the principal debtor. What rights a surety has against the principal debtor? So there are four rights. One is the right of subrogation. Second is the right of indemnity. Third is right to insist the principal debtor to honor his obligation. And right to securities with the creditor. Subrogation, friends, if the debtor commits default and the liability of the debtor is discharged by the surety, then whatever rights are available to the creditor against the debtor, all will get transferred from the creditor to the surety. So surety will step into the shoes of creditor. This is known as the right of subrogation. So all the rights will be substituted. That is, a person will be substituted. The creditor will be replaced by the surety now. The right of indemnity. Now, whatever amount has been paid by the surety in case of debtor's default, surety has a right to be indemnified. One point, friends, I would like to share with you. Surety has the right to be indemnified whatever he has paid rightfully under the contract. And if he has paid any amount wrongfully under the contract, he has no right to be indemnified. So the question arises, how can we say the amount he has paid is wrongful? Let us presume, friends, the debt has become time-barring debt against both the parties, surety and the principal debtor. Still, the surety has paid the amount. Then in that case, surety will not be indemnified by the principal debtor because here right payment has not been made. Moving ahead, rights to insist the principal debtor to honor his obligation. Now, he can request the principal debtor that because primary liability is that of principal debtor. He can request the principal debtor that he must discharge his duties. He must discharge his obligation. The right to securities with the creditor. Sometimes securities are to be deposited by the principal debtor with the creditor. Say any movable security, say watch or furniture or computer or motorbike. Okay. So then in that case, if the principal debtor has committed default and his liability has been discharged by the surety, then whatever securities the creditor has in his possession, the surety will have the right to obtain the benefit of those securities. Okay. So friends, these are the rights of surety against the principal debtor. Now, rights of surety against the creditor. Now, what rights the surety has against the creditor? Here are 4 points. Right to request the creditor to proceed against the debtor. He can always request the creditor. First of all, he should proceed against the debtor, and if debtor commits default, then surety is there to discharge the liability of debtor. Right to set off. Set off means right to make adjustment. Surety has a right to make adjustment. Say, let us presume the debtor has borrowed 10,000 rupees from creditor for a period of 1 month. And now debtor was the businessman. And creditor has bought goods from debtor worth rupees 1,000. So friends, in all, the debtor has to pay 9,000 rupees along with the interest to the creditor. So this right to make adjustment, 10,000 minus 1,000, which was available to the debtor, will also be available to the surety. If debtor commits default, surety will not pay 10,000 plus interest, but he will pay 9,000 plus interest. Moving ahead, right to require the employer to terminate the employee's services. Now, I did talk about, in my last video, I did talk about fidelity guarantee, which is always given for the good conduct of a person. Say, friends, surety has given the fidelity guarantee to the employer, and some act of dishonesty has been proved against the employer. Not only once, twice, thrice. And then in that case, surety can tell the employer to put an end to the services of the employer. The right to share reduction. Sometimes say the principal debtor has become insolvent and action has been taken by the creditor against the debtor. It takes time. Then in that case, after some time, the 50% is realized from the debtor's estate. It means 50% creditor will be able to recover from the debtor's estate. Then the share of surety will get reduced. He will be liable to pay only 50% because the debtor, the 50% amount could be received from the debtor's estate. But if nothing can be received from the debtor's estate, then the surety's share will not get reduced. Now moving ahead, friends, the third right is rights of the surety against co-sureties. Now, if guarantee is given by more than one person, then they are known as co-sureties. Now the question arises, what rights the surety has against co-sureties? I would like to share all these 4 points which are before you. First one is, friends, where co-sureties are liable to contribute equally. If they are decided to contribute equally, then there will be equality of burden and benefit. The X, Y, and Z, they are co-sureties, and they have guaranteed debt of 9,000 rupees, and they have decided to contribute equally. Each one's share will be 3,000. If the debtor has committed default to the extent of 50%, then each one will be liable to contribute 1,500. Okay, where co-sureties are bound to pay in different sums. Now say X, Y, and Z. X has given the guarantee for 4,000, and Y has given the guarantee for 3,000, and Z has given the guarantee for 2,000. So it means X maximum limit is 4,000, and Y's maximum limit is 3,000, and Z's maximum limit is 2,000. Then in that case, whatever is the amount of default, each co-surety will be liable to contribute equally, subject to the maximum limit which has been specified by him. The right to share benefits of security. If there is any security in the possession of creditor, then all the co-sureties will have the right to obtain the benefit of that. Effect of release of a surety. Now, sometime what may happen, I have taken the example of 3 co-sureties, X, Y, and Z. See, creditor has told that Y person not to pay the total amount. So when we talk about co-sureties, their liability is joint as well as several or individual. Then, say Z has been released from liability. Then, X or Y will be called upon to make the entire payment of 9,000 rupees. Whosoever has been called, Z will have to pay his own share to such person. So, co-surety, release of surety, one of the co-sureties, does not mean release of all. Release means at least that person who has been so released will not be asked to make the entire payment. But whatever his share, he will have to pay to the person whosoever has paid. So friends, this is all about the rights of surety against different parties. And now I'll take up the last heading, which is discharge of surety. Which are the circumstances in which the surety is discharged from his liability? Very, very important question from examination point of view. How is the surety discharged from his liability? Or when is the surety discharged from his liability? So the three headings friends. First one is revocation. Second one is by act or conduct of the creditor. And third is by invalidation of the contract of guarantee. So I'll take up all the points one by one, and each main point has got sub-points, which I will explain. So you all know, friends, the meaning of the term revocation, which means to take back, to withdraw. Guarantee once given can be withdrawn by the surety. First one is by notice, second is by death of surety, third is by novation. By notice already I have talked about. In case of continuing guarantee, surety can always, serve the notice to the other person, creditor or the supplier, and he can revoke his guarantee. And even in case of specific guarantee, surety can revoke his guarantee by serving the notice if the guarantee has not been acted upon. But once it has been acted upon, then the surety has no right to withdraw his guarantee. By death of surety. Say surety has given the guarantee, but a guarantee has not been acted upon. Then, and surety dies. Then in that case, surety's legal representative shall not be held. So the death of a surety leads to termination of a continuing guarantee, whether the creditor is aware or he is not aware of the death. By novation. Novation, you all know, friends, it is substitution of new contract in place of old one. The moment new contract is substituted in place of old one, then the original contract gets discharged. Say creditor, debtor and surety decide that the amount will be lent on 1st of January, 10,000 rupees. It will be for a period of 1 month. But after some time, on the same day, they meet again. They say, no, the amount will not be lent on 1st of January. It will be lent on 15th of January. All three parties meet and decide. Then in that case, the second contract, the new contract will come into existence and the old contract will get discharged. So friends, first mode of discharge of surety I have explained. Coming to the second mode, which is by act or conduct of the creditor. How the creditor behaves, he acts or he conducts, and through his acts or conduct, the surety is discharged from his liability. Here there are 5 to 6 points I will explain with the help of example. Variation in the terms of the contract. Any change which the creditor wants to make, he must obtain the consent of surety. If he makes any change in the contract with the debtor, but surety is not informed about that, or his consent is not sought, then in that case, surety will be discharged from his liability. Release or discharge of the principal debtor. If principal through the act of the creditor, principal debtor is discharged from his liability. Then in some cases, surety will also be discharged from his liability. But there are some exceptional cases where surety will not be discharged from his liability. So, say for example, friends, Labor or workers' performance is guaranteed by the surety, provided the material will be provided by the owner for the construction of the house, bricks, cement, whatever is required, and contractor, performance has been guaranteed by the surety. And now what has happened, friends? Owner has failed to supply material. Then it is not possible for the contractor to get the work done from his workers. So it means principal debtor has been discharged. The contractor has been discharged through the act of the owner. Then the surety will automatically be discharged. Moving ahead, friends, compounding with or giving time to the principal debtor. Debtor is discharged from his liability if the creditor promises to give him time for the performance. Surety is discharged from his liability if the creditor promises to give him time for the performance. Now, any compromise which takes place between the debtor and the creditor. Say the debtor borrowed money for 1 month on the guarantee of surety person, but after 1 month he was not able to make the payment. He went to the creditor, he requested him to extend his period by 2 days, which creditor extended without seeking the consent of the surety. Then surety will be discharged from his liability. Or debtor says, okay, I can only pay out of 10,000, 8,000 rupees. And the creditor accepts. Then in that case, then also friends, any compromise, any extension of time which takes place between the principal debtor and the creditor without the knowledge of the surety will discharge the surety from his liability. Moving ahead, friends, creditor's act or omission impairing surety's eventual remedy. If any act or omission of the creditor deprives the surety of the benefit of his remedy, then surety will be discharged from his liability. See, friends, this fidelity guarantee has been given by the surety to the employer, and there was act of dishonesty which was approved against the cashier, and employer did not inform the surety for this dishonesty. Second time it again took place, and now employer informed the surety. So for the first act, surety will not be held liable because he does not know, he is not aware of this. He has no right to, because he has creditor, employer has destroyed the surety's eventual value. Had he known this, he would have taken the proper action. He would have he would have lodged the FIR, which he cannot do now. Okay, so friends, any act or omission on the part of creditor which destroys surety's eventual remedy will discharge the surety from his liability. And the last point is loss of security. The security which belongs to the debtor but which is in the possession of creditor. If it is lost due to the negligent act of the creditor, then to that extent surety will be discharged from his liability. Say, let us presume the motorbike. Motorbike, was worth rupees 40,000, and the loan was 1 lakh rupees. And due to the negligent act of the creditor, the motorbike has been destroyed. It got destroyed. Then to the extent of 40,000 rupees, the surety will be discharged from his liability. But remember, friends, I would like to add to this, if the security gets destroyed by the act of the God, due to earthquake or due to some other reason, then the surety will not be discharged from his liability. And now the third mode of discharge of contract, discharge of liability of the surety, which is by invalidation of contract of guarantee. So the contract of guarantee becomes invalid. Now the question arises, when will the contract of guarantee become invalid? 4 points here. First is where the guarantee is obtained by misrepresentation. You all know, friends, you all have studied misrepresentation term in the case of free consent, where wrong statements are given, untrue statements are given. In that case, the surety will be discharged from his liability. Where the guarantee is obtained by concealment, concealment amounts to fraud. Some facts have been hidden, they have been concealed from the surety. And later on, surety comes to know that they were hidden from him. The moment he comes to know, he can say, no, I'm not liable now, because the guarantee was obtained by concealment or fraud, where one of the co-sureties does not join. Here, surety does not want to be the sole guarantor. X is the surety. He says, no, Y will join, then only I will give the guarantee. And Y does not join. Then, friends, the contract of guarantee is not valid, where it lacks essential elements of a valid contract. Now, contract of guarantee should have all essentials of a valid contract. Say free consent, parties must be competent to contract, creditor and surety must be competent to contract, but debtor may be competent to contract or may not. So friends, it should have all essentials of a valid contract. If free consent is not there or consideration is not there, then the contract of guarantee will not be valid. So how is the contract of guarantee discharged? There are three ways, three modes: by revocation, by act or conduct of the creditor, and the third is by invalidation of contract of guarantee. So friends, I would like to conclude now. In my today's video class, I have covered three main headings. The first was about nature and extent of surety's liability. Second was about rights of surety against different parties, debtor, creditor, and co-sureties. And the last one is how is the surety? Last one is, the heading, how is the surety discharged from its liability? Three ways: revocation, then by act or conduct of the creditor, by invalidation of the contract of guarantee. So with this, I have put an end to this chapter. When I'll meet you next, then I will take up second contract under the special contracts, which will be contract of bailment and pledge. So friends, this is, and now very small heading is left out, which is exceptions to the discharge of the surety. There are certain exceptional cases where surety will not be discharged from its liability. Agreement made with the third parties is the first point. Mere forbearance to sue, release of one co-surety, death or insolvency of the debtor. So, agreement made with the third parties. Say, S has given the guarantee to creditor of the performance of the debtor. Performance of the promise of the debtor. Debtor has borrowed 10,000 rupees from creditor for a period of 1 month at the guarantee of the surety. And debtor is able to pay only 8,000 rupees. He informs the creditor. And creditor is telling his friend, third party, that my debtor is unable to pay the money. He is able to pay only 8,000 rupees after the expiry of 1 month. And now which is overheard by the surety. Then surety will not be discharged from his liability. Any agreement, compromise, agreement which is made with the third party, not with the principal debtor, this will not discharge the surety from his liability. Second is mere forbearance to sue. Debt has become due for payment, but creditor has not filed a suit against the debtor. Then surety will not be discharged from his liability. Next is release of one co-surety. Release of one co-surety, you all know friends, at least that person who has been so released will not be called upon by the creditor to make the entire payment. So release of one co-surety does not mean release of all. So other co-sureties will not be released from their liability. Death or insolvency of the debtor. Now, if the debtor dies or he becomes insolvent, then it does not mean surety will be discharged from his liability. Surety will be liable. So surety and debtor both are different persons in the eyes of law. Sometimes we find, friends, surety may be discharged, but debtor may not be. But other time we find debtor may be discharged, but surety may not be. Okay, friends, this is all about today. And thanks a lot for watching my videos. Friends, do subscribe to my channel. If you are not subscribed yet, do press on the bell icon to get notifications for future videos. Keep smiling and stay healthy always. We'll meet soon. Goodbye.